Hello, welcome. Today I am joined by Anisha Joshi, who is an osteopath and author. So, Anisha, how you doing?
I'm great. The sun is shining.
It is really shining. I was actually really pleased that the sun's manoeuvred from I'm in Manchester as well, so it's really not, we're not used to it. So I had a big beam of light about 10 minutes ago, so I'm pleased it's gone now.
That's probably just, your halo, like
I'll take that.
showing
Yeah,
up.
that's good. Maybe we'll just end on that note, actually. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And is an angel. So what's going on with you today?
Wow, today, it's like a work from home day. I'm like doing all the admin, all the meetings, all the payroll, contracts, HR, recruitment. I'm also planning content for Instagram, um, strategy. Yeah, just all the things
All
that
the
I
things.
do.
So how do you marry those things? Because like you've got several things that you've got going on, but how do you manage the creative elements of things as well as like you mentioned all like the administrative piece? I absolutely hate that combination, by the way. But how do you do that?
Um, so I do with the clinics, I own the businesses with my sister, who's also an osteopath. And then we do have like a practice manager that oversees the four clinics. So I am able to sort of delegate or ask for help with the clinical admin side, but things like the payroll and recruitment and stuff, we take quite seriously. So it's something that we like to deal with ourselves. And essentially how I do it is I try to kind of time block my day as much as I can. So I'll like set aside a certain amount of time for like content creation and um strategy around that and making time for it because it is a full-time job.
It is. I think trying to flip between different things. I remember when our general manager went off on maternity, and we was like, right, well, we'll figure out a way to do that. And I ended up doing a lot of that piece, and it was one of the most unpleasant times within my company, just because you're trying to deal with stuff whilst you're also trying to be creative and think to the future, how you're growing, developing, and all of that piece, which I much prefer doing. But that stuff, not only is it time thing, but it drags you down mentally. I find anyway.
Yeah, it is exhausting. I do fall asleep in front of the TV at 8 o'clock. And that's if I'm in front of the TV. Um, but yeah, I generally go to bed quite early. But yeah, it's for me, I do almost wonder actually if there's more recently, I've wondered actually if I'm like almost addicted to the busyness. Like I've not been on a holiday for 3.5 years, like a proper holiday. I travel a lot for work. Um, whether that I see patients in Dubai, and I go and do speeches and talks and corporate things like in Europe and things like that. But it's work, right? It's not fully relaxing. And I think I do actually there is like being totally transparent. I think there is a part of me actually that's a bit worried to go on holiday, to be a bit like, I don't know what will happen. Like, I'm actually almost scared to stop, which, I've never actually said that out loud before. Um, but yeah, I think
So
that's true.
what are you scared about? Like what you think is going to happen?
I think actually more, I think I'm actually scared that like my body will just be like, right, that's it. And I'll just get really ill or, you know, like our bodies do, right? Run on adrenaline, as we know. Um, yeah, I'm worried that like I'll get really ill or something, or like, um, yeah, or you know, like anything when you're an entrepreneur, you take your foot off the pedal slightly. Um, and I've got to a place where I can afford to take my foot off the pedal, and it not impact the business as much as it used to. Like the business isn't as reliant on me as it used to be. But yeah, it's just that I guess it's that, I don't know, entrepreneurial fear. And also
Yeah,
I think it's probably just because I've been on the hamster wheel for so long, for that 3.5 years. I think, you know, when you're just like, oh, like I don't know if I know how to get off, you know. Uh,
yeah,
so I just need to remind myself, basically. Um, like there's definitely be going away this year. Um, it's not
it
planned yet, but yeah.
doesn't sound like it, to be honest, but it's
No, it will happen.
I'm going to come
Otherwise,
back. I'm going to hold you accountable for that. So I'm going to come back
okay.
to you and check in what you've booked because
All
I
right.
think
I would appreciate
otherwise
that actually. Thanks.
I will do. Yeah, I think it's such an interesting point, and I can really empathise with that. Is like I've got this energy sometimes, and it's like sort of nervous energy that I know I need to be doing more, I need to be doing it. And you already do so much. You're doing loads of different things, like writing a book, whatever it may be, speaking. There's all these things you don't want to, and if you feel, I feel guilty for not doing more or not doing things and passing it on to the team. Like
Mm.
can you relate to that sort of energy?
Yeah, I would say it's almost like practice, I think. It's taken me years to learn how to delegate. I think I'm a lot better at it now. And um, I think what I do struggle with is if I can do something quicker and like just smoother, I'm like, I just do it.
Yeah,
Which isn't the right thing to do. I know that, but um, I would say I don't necessarily feel kind of guilty. It's more just, I'd probably say it's more like impatience.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, it's interesting, isn't it? How like what makes you feel like that? So how do you switch off? Like how do you get balance in your life?
I would say my one sort of, I guess, non-negotiable is that I train 5 times a week. So that's go to the gym, strength training. Um, and yeah, I guess that's like time for me. I do also practice like breath work in the mornings and things like that. And I try, if I've got like a particular thing coming up that I'm anxious about or nervous about, like a talk or telly or whatever, then I try and be quite regimented with like meditating and like positive affirmations and things like that. Um, yeah.
Mm. I really like the quote you've got on your website as well, which is relevant with the weather as it is today. So shower yourself with unconditional love, like the sun showers the earth with sunlight. And so like talk to me about why that one resonates so much.
Um, I think um so when I first started to sort of put my head above the parapet, as it were, um, and what I mean by that is, I guess, when I started getting opportunities, like whether that was national press or, you know, TV or whatever, where people were finding me from my Instagram, um, I got a lot not a lot, I got quite a lot of like hate um from the osteopathic profession actually. And I've spoken about it really openly because I think it's something that people need to be aware of. And I'm hoping in doing so, in me talking about it so openly, it's actually calmed down quite a lot in the profession, and people are actually realizing that their words have a huge impact. And that's what happened to me, you know, like I basically got shot at because my head was above the parapet and I was trying to make this kind of positive impact on the profession. You know, not a lot of people know what osteopaths do. They know what physios and chiropractors do. And I just wanted to sort of, I guess, give us some accolade or, you know, credibility. And I think on the back of that sort of I guess hate or whatever, and I already had imposter syndrome. I already was a bit like, why me? Why do they want to talk to me? Um, and so when you've got other people going, yeah, why her? She has no idea what she's talking about, you know, sort of thing. Um, it ended up making me go into a bit of a spiral, and I ended up having a panic attack like 10 seconds before going live on TV. Um, and I'd never had one before. I've, you know, done lots of scary things, and never, I almost felt like I thrived in those environments because I felt like I'd grow through it. But I didn't know what was happening to me. And cut a long story short, I ended up obviously getting PTSD as well because I couldn't fight or flight because they were counting me in to live TV. And I was having a full blown panic attack and couldn't do anything about it. Um, so I ended up getting panic attacks all the time, like on the tube, in the clinic room, and I had to end up being like having to excuse myself from the patient going, um, or even like going to the dentist just all the time. Like I just didn't know. And then I managed to work through it. I managed to go back on TV after 6 months of me saying, no, I can't do it. Um, and worked through it basically. But that quote, back to the quote, I would say that I guess it's just a reminder for myself, but also others that, you have to, as much as and I think especially as osteopaths, as empaths, we're constantly trying to fill other people's buckets, whether that's reassurance, positivity, and also obviously physically. But it's about also doing the same for ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, it's really interesting to hear that, and I fully agree. It's like being kind to yourself because it's easy to just be like, could be doing more, should be doing this, helping people, all of those things, and it can take a toll on you. So like that panic attack, how did that manifest itself then when you were going in to do that talk?
Um, so basically what started happening was I started to feel like nauseous. And then I started to like essentially like my heart rate went up, and then I couldn't breathe, and I got really cold. Like my whole body went freezing cold, and I was like shaking, like violently shaking. And bearing in mind that I've got a camera literally in my face and the producer behind the camera going, "Are you okay?" Like that behind the camera, but still going 5, 4, 3, like counting me in. And I'm like, yeah, like and I managed to obviously. So what happened was I got distracted, right? Because I had to just dampen. And the minute I started speaking, it was okay, as it were. Like, I was okay, but I didn't realize the impact. And people who know me, who saw it, were like, that's weird. Like they could see just for like a second at the beginning that I was shaking, sort of thing. But to the untrained eye, you wouldn't know. But yeah, it just, I genuinely thought I was going to throw up on live TV.
God, yeah, no, that's hideous, isn't it? So do you think that was directly related to the negativity that you received online?
I think it was a combination of things. I do think that that had a big impact because it was just too coincidental. Like, because I'd done the show once, and it was after that that I was getting all these like comments and, and then I was on the show literally like 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later again. And that's when I had the panic attack. And I think it was a combination of things. I think also it was a thought of, because they announced that I was coming on. So this morning put it on their social media and on their Facebook page to like millions of people, obviously. Like, we've got osteopath Anisha Joshi in tomorrow. Send in your questions, back pain clinic, whatever, right? So then I think that made me panic because I thought, oh, great. Now they all know that I'm going to be on TV tomorrow. So someone put it in the osteopath group, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I think subconsciously I had this vision of like, you know, 80,000 therapists. Obviously, that's not the case. No one has time to watch me on TV, but I knew that there would be a lot, like thousands of people recording it or tuning in or and I instantly thought it would, not all of it was negative, obviously. A lot of people were extremely supportive. But it's interesting because it's the people that say things that are negative that seem to scream the loudest, annoyingly. So that's why I try and make a point of, if I'm supporting someone or trying to say something good, I make a point to do it because I just feel like, yeah, it wasn't until I was literally at the depths of like despair that all these people from the woodworks within the profession started to come out through the cracks and go, like, why are you treating Anisha like this? On like we should be supporting her, and I was like, who are these people? Where are they coming from? But it really helped. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. What is it about that negativity online? Like, where do you think that comes from?
Um, as in why
Just yeah,
they were
what's the
like,
driver? What is the driver for people?
you know what? I don't know. I think, I think there's lots of different types of people within professions and lots of different types of belief systems. And I think ultimately you've got your traditional osteopaths, you've got your very modern evidence-based osteopaths, you've got your, so I think essentially some people are just obviously very stuck in their train of thought and aren't very open people, or in some cases kind. um, and I think with the help of like being behind a computer, they feel like they can say that, um, and think it doesn't have an impact. But they would never, like, the stuff I heard would never be said to me face to face, like, ever. Like, I know that a grown man would not be swearing at me, like, or at a osteopathic conference, for instance. Um, so it's just, yeah, I think it's a combination of things. People are always like, oh, they were jealous, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe. But either way, I'm not, I'm, I'm definitely not sort of sat on television going, I'm the best osteopath and the best musculoskeletal therapist, by the way. So, just come to me. And in fact, I didn't get many patients from going on TV. It was actually all the clinics, like in places that watch daytime TV that got new clients, which was amazing. Like, it was great to get messages from clinic owners that were like, oh, I got 10 new clients this week in Norfolk because they saw you on TV. Thank you for like spreading the osteopathic word, So it's stuff like that that make it really worth it. And I think getting messages like that and getting the people come through the cracks to say, no, she's doing an amazing thing and support me is kind of what helped me keep my head above the parapet. And yeah, it's made me realize in a way why so many people put their head above the parapet and then quickly went like that after being shot at, if that makes sense. Because yeah, it's not fun.
No, no, I can imagine. So what made you want to get into osteopathy in the first place?
So my sister is an osteopath. She's 7 years older than me. And my dad had severe back problems, and ended up seeing an osteopath. My sister ended up doing osteopathy. She was and is still super passionate about it. And it just kind of rubbed off on me, I think. I just found it fascinating. I liked being able to work closely with people, and also just sort of create a rapport with people, being able to sort of ask how their kids did in their GCSEs, or like, seeing someone 10 years later and, they've got a child or they're married, or, it's just, I don't know, there's something about connecting with people, and also being able to kind of reassure them and help them mentally and physically.
Yeah. And then did you have aspirations of what you wanted to, was it to be like a practice, doing osteopathy in a clinic? Did you have aspirations to go on to doing what you're doing now?
No, definitely not. The only thing I ever wanted to do was maybe have my own clinic, one clinic. That was it. And be a business owner. And that was the plan. Like, literally, that was the plan. And then once, so my first clinic was in Hitchin in Hertfordshire. And then once that was like expanded from 1 room to 6 rooms on the high street, it was busy, almost at capacity. I was like, maybe I should trial London. So I gave myself 6 months to get a minimum of 5 regular clients in London, because I know how saturated it is. And basically it did quite well. And I got recommended like a celebrity. And then it sort of, he kept saying, and then people just kept saying in London, they kept saying, you should like make your Instagram public because you're quite funny and like you've got a personality and stuff. And I was like, oh. And I was going, no, I don't know, it's too much work. I've got a business, like, and they were going, no, you really should. And I just, when you just keep getting the message over and over again. And that's when eventually I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then I did go that way. But I never thought that in fact, for months, maybe even a year, I was like, nah, I don't want to do Instagram. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I was still quite like, oh, Facebook, But yeah, I mean, Instagram has really changed everything, I'd say, for me.
Like, how did that happen then? How long from setting it up? How long did it take to build the following and get engagement? And like, how did you, coming from someone who didn't get it, let's just quote you there, is how did you start to do that?
So I just started posting things myself, obviously. And then I was like, oh my God, like this works. Like I started getting new patients in London. Like I started to get busier in London quite quickly. And it was quite obvious, like that it was from Instagram that people were finding me. And I was like, oh my God, this shit works, man. Like, so I guess obviously the minute you're getting that sort of instant return, you're like, okay, this is worth it. Um, so I started to put in, say, a bit more effort. And then I had one of my patients was like, you've got so much potential with your Instagram, but you're really shit at it. Like, as in, you're rubbish. Like, you don't do enough. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. And it was just this young guy who worked in retail. And he goes, look, if you want, I'll help you. Like, we can do some kind of deal swap thing. And I was like, okay, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And at the time, I think I had 3,000 followers or something, which I'd done. And then he basically helped me go from that. But when I say help me, like he basically was like, you need to you need to be posting every day, like every single day. And that's on your stories as well. So I decided overnight, I went, right, that's it, I'm going to do it. So I actually said on Instagram, on my stories, I went, guys, I've decided that every single day, every morning, the first thing I'm going to do is an osteo tip on my stories. And I'm telling you because I'm committing to doing it every single day. So for well over, I think it was 2 years, 3 years, I posted an osteo tip every single morning, whether that was Christmas Day, New Year's Day, any day. Like it was, unless I was literally bedridden, I didn't do it. But I posted an osteo tip every single day. People, that helped grow my following because obviously people were wanting to see what I said the next day. Um, And then I was posting on my grid every single day for 6 years as well, which was hard, but it was what it was. And I wrote all the captions myself, got into, realized what worked. So I've got like an Excel spreadsheet where plan content a month in advance. Um, but yeah, it took posting every single day for 6 years for me to start generating some income from Instagram in terms of like, because I see that Instagram has enabled me to get found by companies looking for corporate wellbeing speakers. It's how this morning the producers found me. They'd been following me for 2 years. It's how my book agent found me and reached out and said, I really think you'd be great at writing a book. Have you thought about it? So it's led to some amazing opportunities, but it took 6 years of every single day to and me committing to that to actually see a return, and see why it's all that hard work's been worth it, if you know what I mean. So it's a lot, that is a lot of patience and just belief and determination. But to be honest, I mean, I didn't even go into Instagram and post every day for 6 years with a view of, oh, one day I hope I get paid. Like, or I hope I get this, or I hope I get that. I genuinely didn't. I didn't even know. I thought, yeah, it'd be good to get a following. But for me, it was more about getting patients through the door, you know, like, because the clinics were growing, it was beyond me. So I was like, okay, I'm getting myself busy, but I'm trying to get my associates busy too. So through me, there's overflow, right? But then I was like, okay, I think my door just knocked, but anyway, we'll see. Um, we don't want to edit this out.
It's all the Instagram you're doing that you're getting, they're coming to your door now.
Yeah, it's a paps, you know, like, anyway. And yeah, I lost my train of thought, but it's I never thought of that being a thing. It was, I want more patients through the door. That is literally the only reason why I was putting the effort into Instagram, because I was like, oh, patience, patience, patience. That's where my head was at. It wasn't until slowly people started going, oh yeah, I found, you know, can you come and do this talk? Can you come and do this? Can you come? And I was like, oh, how did you find me? It's like, oh, Instagram. And you know, and that's when I was like, oh. So yeah, it was something I never imagined would have happened or that I wanted to do. But here we are.
So what came first then, the TV or starting to do the book?
TV. Yeah, the
So
book.
what was that like then in terms of the TV? Like what was that first session like? What did they say to you when they asked you to do it? What were your expectations?
Um, they basically, a producer came in for treatment, and said, I really like you. We've been following you for a while, and can you come on the show in 2 weeks' time? And I can't tell you, I had been trying to manifest this morning for 8 years, like literally 8 years. I changed all my passwords on my computers, everything to this morning. So I was typing it in every single day. And so when she said that, I was like, oh my, like, it was mad. I was like, oh my God. And it was literally like, shit, it's coming true. Like, I'm going to be sitting on that sofa. Um, and yes, she just, you know, then they literally rang me and they were like, right, yeah, we're thinking of doing a thing on, I can't even remember what it was, the first time, but you know, we're doing this and we're thinking of this, and then you just literally, they send a car for you, you go, and the presenters ask you questions basically, and it's as simple as that.
So what were you manifesting then? What were you specifically wanting? What were you visualizing?
Literally just getting on the show. Like, for me, initially, it was one track mind, entrepreneur, ambitious, young female going, I want more patience and I want to get on this morning because of that. And then it gradually, it's interesting, like it evolved, like I guess, my reason for wanting to go on, and it sort of developed into, I want more patience. Then it went to, I want more people to know about osteopathy. Then it went to, actually, they do have an osteopath on there, but any musculoskeletal professional tends to be an old white man, um, who's quite boring, you know, like, and I was like, I want to make musculoskeletal care relatable and actually not boring and fun, and something that people think of as fundamental to their well-being. um and and then it became about that, like being a person of color, a female, an osteopath, trying to spread that bigger, I guess, word, and that's kind of, I guess, where it went. And I think I changed my narrative as well. So I noticeably went from, I want to be on this morning one day, to telling patients when I'm on This Morning. And I told everyone, like I was telling patients, I was going, when I'm on This Morning, and they were like, oh, you're going on This Morning. And I'm like, I will be. I was very like, I believed it. I was like,
Well,
I'm
this is
going to be going
before
on
you
this.
did it. This is
Yeah,
before, right?
before, like I said, before I changed all my passwords, I'd said, you know, like to the point of after I'd done it for the first time, I had not hundreds, I had loads of people, like above 40, 50 people message me going, oh my God, Anisha, I remember you treating me 6 years ago and telling me you wanted to be on This Morning. And I've just turned on the telly and seen you and I've just burst into tears. Like, I can't believe it. Like, congratulations. You know, and it made me realize how far back I was talking about it and how long it had taken to get through the door. Um, so yeah, but the mission became more about the bigger message.
Yeah. And how did you find it then when you were doing that? Like, I know you said you had that panic attack a little bit further down the line, but at first, how did you find it?
The first time, yeah, I was nervous. I didn't honestly believe it was happening until probably in the car on the way there. And then I didn't tell anyone other than immediate family about the first time because I just didn't want the pressure. And then after it was like, yeah, and like an adrenaline rush. It was exciting. I was exhausted. I actually had to go to bed for 2 hours afterward because I hadn't slept for like a week. Um, and yeah, it was great. It was really nice.
Hmm. And then, so how did the book come about?
So I actually got approached by a book agent on Instagram. She sent me a message saying, have you thought about writing a book? And I said, actually, yeah. So during lockdown, I had a whiteboard. Um, on there was Get On This Morning, and underneath was publish a book, be an author. And then I had all the other things, right? Still not married, just saying. And basically, I yeah, I was like, yeah, I really want to be an author. Amazing. And then, cut a long story short, I didn't know what to do, obviously. So she was like, yeah, okay, we'll send a book proposal in. And then I just was so busy with everything else, I just kept not doing it. And she was like, are you going to do this book proposal? And I was like, honestly, yeah, but I just don't know how to do one. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't, you know, and she gave me an outline. I said, I still don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue. And she said, okay, let me see. I was like, is there anyone that can help me, like that knows what they're doing? And so you can get these people to help you that they're not like ghostwriters or anything. You write like your chapter or whatever, and then they help propose it. So I had help to do the proposal. And then basically the agent sends it to their contacts, and publishers that are interested in publishing it come back and say, yeah, you know, we want to pitch for this, as it were. So I was, you know, really lucky to have like about 5 or 6 very big names try and pitch for it. And then they interview you as well. Um, and yeah, and then I actually got 5 offers in the end, and then had to like pick what was best, I guess, and who I had a rapport with, like with the editor and, you know, things like that. Um, and then, yeah, I basically had 6 months to write 70,000 words.
How was that process?
It was it was intense, obviously, because I was still content creating, still running like 4 clinics, still trying to have a life. But I basically split it into sections. So I set myself a target of writing 2,500 words a week, basically, minimum. Like it was a non-negotiable. So if by Sunday I'd written 2,000 words, I had to do whatever it took to write that extra 500 by Monday morning, whether that was staying up all night or not. So there were, there were weeks like that where I was up all night. But I just was like, I'm getting it done. Yeah. And then you just send it in, and then basically they send it back, and then it's like, it's a long process. It's like I think it took 2.5 years from when I got, or was it? Yeah, about 2 years from when I signed with Penguin, like to write it all the editing, covers, illustrations, all that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, you've done so many interesting things. Like, what are you most proud of in your, well, not just career, life?
Wow. What am I most proud of? I'm most proud of taking my family on holiday. That was last year. Yeah, I've spent, my parents have sacrificed a lot, like parents do. But me and my sister, we literally came from nothing, lived above a corner shop, shared a room kind of vibe. And my parents remortgaged their house twice to help me buy my first clinic. And I still owe them money, actually, being honest. But yeah, for me, it was like, I've always wanted to just be able to take everyone on holiday. And last year I was able to do that for the first time, which was a really nice feeling. So yeah, I just wish I could do it every year. But yeah, the aim is to be able to do that every year.
Get it on your board. Get it on your board.
It's true,
Just
actually.
below getting married.
Yeah, God.
Priorities.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's been great chatting. Like, what would your advice be for people that are just, well, interested in, I'd say, osteopathy, but not just that, really? What would your advice be to people either in the industry or not in the industry?
Um, I would say, I'd say, I think it's true what they say in terms of like believing. I think that if you truly believe that you can do something, you can. And I think there's a lot of noise and negativity around, but actually try and come back to the fact that you can do it. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, great. No, I love it. And I think really picked up on like your positivity, but also just like that commitment, accountability to get stuff done. I think it's actually quite simple. I think when you actually break it down, is you just do it rather than talking about doing it. You do it. You get your words done. You post every day like that. You've done 6 years of posting, and then it's like, oh yeah, how lucky is she that she's getting on TV? It's like, well, no, it's not, because you've done all of that work, not to mention everything else before that as well.
Mm.
So no, it's great. Look, I really appreciate you sharing. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to hold you accountable to taking that proper holiday, not just a worky one, because again, I know what that's
Thank you.
like. And also for holding you. I'm not sure I can hold you accountable for getting married, but anyway, I'll.
Oh God, brilliant. I'll give you their number and you can
Yeah,
hold them
do that.
accountable.
Do that, yeah, and I'll be as intimidating. I'm not very intimidating, but as intimidating as I can, and see where we go with that.
Cool.
Yeah, brilliant. Lot, Anisha, thank you so much for sharing. Well done with everything you've done so far, and I look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Thank you so much.